Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for coming out this morning. I think there may be others who are going to join us, but there's plenty of seats, so they will come in. I don't want to hold up the presentation. So, as I've said many, many times, diversity is really a very critical element in fulfilling our mission here at FIT. It's really, I think of it as a powerful source of enrichment. I think it will be very important for our students as a competitive advantage in the marketplace. And I think we have a lot to celebrate, and we also have a lot of work to do. As an institution of higher education, it's really our obligation, I think, to foster the goals of diversity so that it's clear to everyone that everyone among us is properly recognized and valued. So it is my hope that with this strategic plan that we're going to review today will help us along the way to achieve and accomplish our goal. So a subcommittee of the President's Diversity Council has been working on the plan for over a year and working very hard. Thank you very much. They clearly took into account the results of the climate survey, the campus climate survey that we conducted several years ago. And I'm pleased to see that they define diversity with the kind of breadth that includes such things as values and thought and experience. So the plan was posted last week, and we've already received some comments on it. I hope that with this presentation, you will add to those comments and be part of our discussion this morning. I want you to know you're being videotaped, so if you stand and speak, make sure it's on your good side is showing. And for now, I am going to turn this podium over to Ron Milan, who is the co-chair of the Diversity Council, and to Tanya Melendez. And I know Jean-Marc is not here. Christina Solomon, I could remember the last name. Christina is going to, I shouldn't say fill in for Jean-Marc. She has had a very vital role throughout, and in her own right will be the other presenter. This is the group that led the subcommittee that wrote the plan. I thank you all for all that work, and I'm really looking forward to the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Good morning. What I'd like to do now is go over the agenda for the rest of the session. There's some items here. First, we want to talk about FIT's long history in fostering diversity on campus. The second point, we want to talk about FIT's 2012 Climate Assessment Survey. The third item, we want to talk about SUNY's Diversity Strategic Plan mandate, followed by FIT's strategic plan goals, strategies, and initiatives, and then finally by proposed next steps and questions. One thing that should be noted that this is, we'll be providing an opportunity afterwards for questions, but also if you are shy and do not want to be recorded, we will have opportunity for you to provide questions online up until October 21st, and we'll give you information on the link and how to access that. FIT has a long history of fostering diversity on campus. In fact, what you see here is the mission, vision, and goals of our actual strategic plan, the college's strategic plan. And as you know, our strategic plan, the college's strategic plan, always had as its core is being inclusive and building community. So our strategic plan fits, the strategic plan for the diversity, inclusion, and equity fits right into that. Prior to SUNY's task for all of the SUNY campuses, SUNY wanted to make the university the most inclusive university in the country. But FIT had already had that foundation already by establishing the President's Diversity Council in 2008. and that was reinforced in 2010 by the launch of the Faculty of the Future. This initiative was aimed at diversifying the faculty, and in 2012 with the implementation of the climate survey. The FIT climate survey that was conducted in 2012 was well received. 81% of the FIT community felt comfortable or very comfortable with the climate of inclusion here on campus. But there were two areas of improvement that was listed. One was inequalities based on position and based on LGBTQ identity. Additionally, there were concerns regarding race, ethnicity, and we looked at that as an opportunity for enhancement. SUNY's diversity strategic mandate, again, was to make the SUNY system the most inclusive and representative of our population in the country. In 2015, SUNY Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Policy was published. In 2016, SUNY's Campus Guide for Strategic Diversity and Inclusion Plan was set into motion, and now our plan needs to be submitted by November 1st. And it should be noted that when SUNY put together the guidelines for the schools to create their own diversity and inclusion and equity plan, guess what? They used our mission statement as an example. So kudos to us. At this time, I'd like to present Christina, who will go over the goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron, and good morning. We are now going to cover the goals, strategies, and initiatives that the Diversity Council Strategic Planning Subcommittee has developed with the active involvement and support of the Diversity Council. But before we cover those, it is important to state the ambition that has emerged as the core aim of this plan, and that all the goals, strategies, and initiatives are formulated to support. The ultimate ambition is to further the development and expansion of a community with diversity of thoughts, experiences, and values, where everyone, whatever the origin of their diversity, whether it be racial, intellectual, religious, sexual, or anything in that mix, will feel included, free to contribute, and able to grow as an individual and as a member of the FIT community. Because of this ambition, this plan will be a living body that will evolve and change over time. To start achieving this ambition, though, we have set 3 goals. The 3 goals that you see on the slide have been formulated to work together to help foster even further diversity of thoughts, values, and experiences at FIT. From ensuring that all the appropriate diverse communities are represented and involved at FIT with Goal 1, to allowing each member of those communities to feel appreciated, valued, included, and recognized to help them achieve their full potential individually and flourish as a member of the FIT community with Goal 2, and to provide the proper infrastructure and management system to help Goals 1 and 2 be achieved, and to ultimately fulfill the plan's ambition with Goal 3. We understand that we might be starting with more traditional diversity dimensions in the plan itself, but in order to give this plan the proper initial traction, but our ambition is to pass those first dimensions so that ultimately everyone's diversity is recognized and everyone feels accepted, validated, and involved in a safe environment. Under this logic, the first goal is to ensure an effective and appropriate representation of FIT's undeserved stakeholders. This means we want to develop a system to achieve a diverse and inclusive community that is reflective of New York State and New York City and supports the college's mission and vision. Goal 2 is to optimize the personal, academic, and professional potential of all members of the FIT community and their sense of inclusion at FIT. This means we want to help FIT students, faculty, staff, and administrators fulfill their personal and professional potential by creating a climate of inclusion and equity within the FIT community. This also means that we need to foster diverse relationships and give a voice to diversity by cultivating an inclusive learning environment, one that supports the diversity of thought, experience, and values. Finally, Goal 3 focuses on instituting a diversity and inclusion management system within FIT to help achieve Goals 1 and 2. This means we want to provide FIT with an infrastructure which will involve a diversity and inclusion team that will plan, manage, assess, and communicate diversity initiatives. We also want to enable FIT to be transparent and accountable in its commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are now going to go through each goal and present their key strategies and related initiatives. To facilitate the presentation, we will highlight for each strategy 1 or 2 initiatives with examples and illustrations of what those initiatives could mean. Tanya Melendez will help get us started with Goal 1.
Thank you, Christina. We'll look now at Goal 1 of the strategic plan, which is to ensure the effective and appropriate representation of FIT underserved stakeholders. This goal has 2 main strategies, and on the screen here you see strategy A, which is to develop enrollment, retention, and degree completion strategies to ensure that the student body is more diverse. This strategy has 6 initiatives that support it. They focus on identifying gaps, strengthening already successful programs, evaluating policies and practices that preclude the closing of gaps, establish success measures, develop a monitoring system, and integrate our enrollment plan with our diversity plan. But we'll look closer into one of these initiatives, which is to strengthen successful programs and create projects to close gaps. The first step to do this will be to dig deeper into data and to identify any gaps and address these gaps. And when we talk about gaps, we need to think of not only gaps in achievement, but gaps in the data that we're actually collecting, so we have a clearer and broader picture of who we are. After that, we also need to foster diversity by building on successful projects. And here, we're talking about students. We can think of the Educational Opportunity Program, which has been taking place at FIT since the 1970s, and it supports socioeconomically disadvantaged students in their studies at FIT. And this program has been so successful that it has received additional funding so it can grow in the upcoming years. Now let's take a look at Strategy B, which focuses on the recruitment and retention of faculty, staff, and administrators so they can reflect the diversity of New York. And here we're talking about New York State, but also about New York City. As you can see here, there are 5 initiatives for this strategy, and they're very similar to the student initiatives. They also focus on identifying gaps, on strengthening successful programs, on evaluating and monitoring policies and programs, establishing success measures, and developing a monitoring system. So we're again going to focus on strengthening successful programs and creating projects to close gaps. Here, when we think of faculty, we can look at one of the programs that Ron mentioned, the Faculty of the Future, that, as he said, was established in 2010 to re-examine the way that we hire faculty. Over the years, this program has become a pipeline for having a faculty of diverse backgrounds, interests, and intellectual perspectives. And this is the foundation for having a more diversified faculty. Moving on to Goal 2, which is to optimize the personal, academic, and professional potential of all members of the FIT community and their sense of inclusion at FIT. There are three strategies for this goal. Here you can see strategy A, which is to promote equity, respect, and civility at FIT. And here are all the initiatives for this strategy. They focus on increasing collaborations, improving our LGBTQ friendliness rate, expanding communication, incorporating diversity into curricula, considering diversity when we build partnerships, involving employees in decision-making, going further in civility initiatives, and considering diversity in procurement efforts. These are the two initiatives that we're going to look at. Let's incorporate diversity into curricula. FIT will encourage faculty to incorporate diversity in their curricula with the support of their departments and of the administration. Also, we will formally involve FIT administration, faculty, and particularly staff in the formulation, development, and implementation of policies and decisions related to diversity and inclusion. And when we look at this initiative, this responds to concerns expressed during the Campus Climate Survey that was done in 2012. In it, members of staff particularly expressed that they felt they lacked a voice in decision-making at FIT. This initiative addresses that. And how are we going to do it in practical terms? If we look at the way that this plan was put together, that is the way we're going to do it. For this, a group of members of faculty and staff were put together, and we worked closely with the administration to draft the plan that we're presenting to you today. After we drafted it, this plan was discussed with other bodies at FIT, such as the Diversity Council or the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. And now, after all these discussions and many, many revisions, we are also presenting it to you for your feedback. And after we're able to incorporate everybody's voice in it, it will be presented to SUNY. And that is the spirit of this document, having everybody's voice in it. Let's look at strategy B. It is to provide support to underserved students to help them graduate. Here we have 4 initiatives which focus on increasing support, creating living and learning communities, recognizing students for their diversity efforts, and improving our data collection. Let's look closely at create living and learning communities that celebrate diversity and inclusion. Currently, FIT's residential life is working on a gender-neutral LGBTQ and ally living learning community. Because, as we speak, room assignments are based on sex assigned at birth. So our transgender students who have not yet transitioned or legally most often choose to live in single accommodations, but this is very expensive for them, and it is also isolating. To address this, a gender-neutral housing option will allow them to live with whom they're most comfortable with, regardless of this person's gender identity. This will make our residential halls more inclusive and will remove barriers for the success of our transgender students. And here is strategy C. It is to provide support for underserved faculty, staff, and administrators so they can thrive at FIT. So you can see there's this logic of looking at students and then looking at faculty, staff, and administration. There are 5 initiatives for this strategy. It's participation in decision-making, professional development, recognition, diversity training, and exit surveys to understand attrition. Let's look closely at create a structured professional development program for staff. Here, this will be a 2-pronged approach. On one side, we will provide annual diversity training, which will be informed by surveys that we have conducted in the past and we will continue to conduct in the future. And these surveys will also address issues that will have been previously identified. On the other hand, We will explore mechanisms to provide additional support and professional development to those members of our community who have expressed the need for them. And here we can think of bargaining staff and also adjunct faculty. And now Christina is going to come back on stage to talk about Goal 3.
So for Goal 3, which is to institute a diversity and inclusion management system within FIT, there are 3 strategies, with the first one being to ensure that FIT's commitment to diversity is transparent and evident at all levels of the college. You see all the initiatives that are under this first strategy. They relate to communicating our commitment, building our competencies, and encouraging diversity in our curricula. The first initiative that is highlighted for Strategy A is to establish diversity, equity, and inclusion competencies for administrators, faculty, and staff. This initiative really relates to providing you with the professional development opportunities for diversity and inclusion competencies building. Those development opportunities will focus on skills, competencies, and experience development through training supports like potential new diversity and inclusion competency training, as referenced by Tanya with Goal 2. And this would be for new hires and existing staff. Or the expansion of current trainings like the Preventing Harassment and Discrimination training, or the LGBTQ Safe Zone training. This can be accomplished by providing diversity, equity, and inclusion management toolkits that you could use daily to detect, assess, and manage diversity, equity, and inclusion situations and opportunities. The second initiative that is highlighted for this strategy is to encourage and support department chairs to infuse diversity into curricula. Let's see, one moment. Excuse me. Objectively, many faculty and many programs are already doing this. You know who you are, because this is in fact what the industries that we serve are demanding from our graduates: international perspective and experience, an ability to collaborate with diverse people and opinions, and this should be across multiple continents sometimes. Our momentum in this field has been clearly documented through the recent Diversity and Curriculum Survey that has been led by Renee Cooper, Ron Amato, and Daryl Glenn, where many of you have indicated what you already are doing for incorporating diversity in your curriculum. Some examples are globalization-related courses, whether it be in design, business, marketing, or dance, for example. Term projects with global perspective and scope. Term projects where FIT students virtually collaborate with international students, like what they did in France and in Mexico. Student presentations on their home country or country of their choice. Students' production of fragrance for various buildings throughout the world. Or in class, through multiple in-class student discussions like intercultural negotiations, civil rights leaders, global international designers, Japanese method of managerial theory, Black contributions to the American Revolution, or gay rights. The core purpose of this initiative is to expand and deepen, as appropriate, the scope and intensity of diversity-related themes, projects, or activities in our curricular. Strategy B for Goal 3 relates to institutionalizing diversity governance informed by best practices. You see all the initiatives that are under this strategy, and they relate to structuring the management support with new staff and new roles. The initiative that is highlighted for, The initiative that is highlighted for Strategy B is to create an Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion led by a new college's Chief Diversity Officer, or the CDO. This initiative clearly relates to the responsibilities that this new office and its CDO will have moving forward. We could clearly envision that this office could be in charge of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan and its related operational plan, including any newly related policies, diversity-related trainings, development, and implementation, either in direct management or in support of other FIT departments, the creation of a Diversity Advisement Center for faculty and staff for diversity management-related matters, diversity advisement and policy development support for the other FIT departments, and additionally, diversity-related event management and sponsoring, and diversity-related communications and promotion, either in direct management or in support of communications and external relations. This will surely imply some additional changes, like an adjustment of the role of the Diversity Council in whatever shape or form it will evolve into, or the nomination of diversity champions within the FIT community. Lastly, Goal C, the Strategy C for Goal 3 refers to developing an evaluation system to ensure that FIT is meeting its institutional commitments to diversity. The initiatives listed under this strategy relate to building the proper evaluation system through databases, tools, and rubrics. The initiative that we've highlighted for Strategy C is to create a diversity and inclusion database to capture diversity initiatives and assess the college's progress. This initiative will happen primarily with the newly formed Diversity and Inclusion Database that will capture diversity initiatives and assess the college's progress for the diversity plan. This could also be complemented with customizable rubric templates for FIT's management, faculty, and staff that can be used to support the college's diversity, equity, and inclusion plan, implementation, and performance evaluations. As you see, while more analysis is needed, particularly for Goal 1, before the plan can have its full strength, this is a very ambitious and thorough plan that will clearly bring FIT to an unmatched level within the SUNY system. But it will require a very strong focus and support from all of us. Ron Milan will now cover how we'll get this started. You're welcome.
Thank you again, Christina. The goals, the strategies, and initiatives of this diversity, equity, and inclusion plan, and it's important that we say that because those terms are so important, were led by the work done by the President's Diversity Council's subcommittee on strategic planning, and led by the SUNY guidelines that were provided. Once we roll out this plan, it's going to be part of our culture and part of getting the work done. The adoption of the plan is just one part. Once it's adopted, it's the work that we have to follow up on. And there's three proposed next steps that we have: implementation, monitoring and assessment, and accountability. The first is implementation. What we're going to do in this plan, in this part, is create a plan that collects information on the gaps of student enrollment, retention, and graduation rates, and also the gaps in employee hiring and retention and termination. This will give us some idea of our data, where we are in our data. From this information of the gaps in the strength collected, that will lead us into creating an operational plan. In this operational plan, we will come up with more granular activities and tasks, and it will help us to really form a strategy on how to deal with the gaps that we find and the strengths that we find. The one thing in this part of it as well, we have to identify financial resources and staff resources to help accommodate that as well. From there, we will go into the implementation. From that, the third step in the implementation phase will be to develop an awareness of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this plan will include methods to encourage divisions in schools to develop their own practices, to access their own practices and activities, to ensure that there are no barriers in achieving the goals of the plan. Another thing would be create opportunities for ongoing dialogue on campus governance to make more sure that we do more in diversity and inclusion and equity. Then finally, methods of communicating diversity, equity, and inclusion, milestones and activities to the campus community. This will lead us to the second stage of monitoring and assessment. In this phase, what we're going to do is create an evaluation system to develop and ensure that goals of the plan are being achieved. We will create key performance indicators and success benchmarks as appropriate. Also in this one of monitoring assessment, we will come up with assessment activities and timelines as well to include the development of action plans and benchmarks. The next activity is in this, as was mentioned by the team, is the whole idea of capturing and tracking diversity-related activities. This will lead us to the final stage of the rollout, which is the accountability. And in this one, we will deal with the strategies, initiatives, and tasks will be assigned to the various vice presidents who will have timelines for completion of various tasks as given in the plan. Next, a formal mechanism will be developed for administrators to include diversity, equity, and inclusion into the goal setting and performance appraisal process. Finally, we presented goals, initiatives, and some proposed next steps. But remember, this is a living document, and as such, it will change and to meet the needs of our community. So what we would do right now, we'll entertain questions, and you'll be recorded, but you still have until October 21st to go online on myfit.com, edu, I'm sorry, and you will be able to put in additional questions and comments on there as well. We also have received questions and comments already, and we appreciate that, and we will respond to that and include what is needed as appropriate. With that in mind, I thank you and open the floor for any questions. Thank you. Let's not be shy. Okay, we have a mic over here, and we have a mic in the back. So who would like to begin? We were that good? That's impressive. We have our first taker. Yes.
Oh, let's go ahead. Well, first of all, I just want to commend the subcommittee on what a fantastic job they did in putting this all together. The draft is amazing, and I think it's really a lot of great initiative and a lot of great thought was put into this, so thank you for doing that. The other thing is more of a comment more so than a question. I think that, the work that the Diversity Council does is also amazing, and having those, the diversity grant has been a benefit to a lot of different areas on campus. So I'm hoping that within this plan that we'll be able to maybe increase the funding for that or the amount of dollars that are available for people, because I know there's a lot of great initiatives that came out of that, including one that the Disabilities Office did in 2011, where we were able to do a Disability Awareness Month, and then we were able to incorporate that into our office strategy, where we do a Disability Awareness Week every week from that point. But it was a great benefit for us to have that starting point through the diversity grant to get that money to be able to start it. So if that's a possibility to incorporate more funding into that, into the diversity grant, I think that would be a great opportunity for other people to take advantage. That's it.
I'm going to take that upon myself to answer that by saying absolutely yes. Thank you. Shadi? Yes, please.
Thank you again for taking the time to present this. It was engaging and interesting. And I was wondering, you have one of your goals. I'm not sure if it's number 2 or number 3 that talks about training for, or more programming for faculty and staff. And I was wondering whether you could expound on that a little bit more in terms of exactly what are you looking to do on campus in that regard.
Well, I think one of the things about, if we look at how we roll out the actual college's strategic plan, we had think tanks, and we involved the campus community to get involved in various aspects, to get their input. To say that we're going to just impose and say this is what we're going to do, this is unfair. To buy into the plan and to buy into the whole change in the culture, you need to be a part of the process. So you'll be actually a part of really giving ideas of how to do that. And once in the spring, we're going to have a lot of think tanks and doing things and trying to, get your opinion in terms of how to do things in various departments and schools. How's that? Good? You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Ellen Brennan Hearn from the Grants Office.
Good morning.
I'd just like to let everybody know, besides the Diversity Council's $5,000 grant, that SUNY has a $10,000 diversity grant. Sue Breton is a recipient of it this year for her
Yes.
Fashionable Muses
Yay.
project. So if anybody else would like to apply, just contact me.
Yes. Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, this is great. I mean, here we go. Okay.
Hi, if you don't know me, I'm Jonathan Vatner. I'm the staff writer for Hue magazine, and I find this very ambitious and impressive. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more in specifics, if we go forward 2 or 3 years to when many of these initiatives will have been rolled out. How do you see FIT being different? Just in terms of, how will it be more inclusive?
Oh, now you qualified that question. It should be noted that, and I didn't get to mention this as much, but it's important about going back to the climate survey. Prior to SUNY's mandate or guidelines, the Diversity Council had started working on a strategic plan for the campus already. So already the college was looking at ways to be better in creating a diverse, inclusive type campus. So we already have that as part of our culture. I see it as being more of a more inclusive campus. I see more of a diverse campus, more a campus of equity. I see it more a civil campus. And I think everyone here sees the same thing. But that involves more of everyone buying into that culture, that idea. Who's to say what's going to happen in the future? But I'm very optimistic, and I'm optimistic because just of the work that I've seen of the Diversity Council and of other councils, Sustainability Council, for example. So I'm very optimistic, and I think it's going to get better. That's how I look at it. Anyone want to say anything else about that? Okay. The committee agrees, I guess. The council agrees, I should say. Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Terrence Pivian, working in enrollment management.
Hey, Terrence.
This is more of a question. After reading the report, I saw that there was a statement that talked about the. Excuse me. Oh, sorry. I'll just move this. Again, my name is Terrence Pivian. I work in enrollment management. There was a statement within the report that spoke about discrepancy between terminations of people that have a minority background versus non-minority. It used the word termination. Does that also include resignation, or
Yes.
just
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's all
I
inclusive.
think the better word would be separation.
Okay.
However it is.
Got
Yes.
Thank you.
That was it? I answered that question?
That was it. I just saw termination. I was thinking,
Oh.
is that all inclusive or just?
No, it's separation. Thank you.
Hello,
My name is Suku, and I'm part of Diversity Council, and I'm very proud to be part of this community. But I recently experienced, like just observing what's going on in the nation, and from my own personal experience as a adjunct instructor, and I've been recipient of being a part of a conversation where I felt very uncomfortable with the choice of words, and I've heard from my other colleagues who also been involved in a conversation or meetings in which choice of words were not appropriate to invite openness and inclusive environment. And I believe the word civility should be a stronger part of our conversation and even in our mission and vision statements, to include that when we talk about promoting values, the way we express ourselves and the way we educate our students to express themselves is very important for open dialogue and for maintaining values that we are not seeing or experiencing in current climates and faculty meetings to political discussions and all aspects of promoting diversity and inclusion in our community.
I totally agree. I can start off by, if someone wants to chime in, Dr. Brown actually wrote a letter to the college regarding civility because of that concern, because of what we see in the news right now, and the council talked about that the other day, about the elections and the impact that that's having, and the media and the images that we're seeing. So I think that's very important, and it's a very tough conversation. It is not a conversation that everyone is trained on. And I think as a school, we will attempt to provide more opportunities to encourage that open and constructive dialogue, to help staff and faculty in terms of dealing with that in the classroom. And also not just in the classroom, but also in the various departments, because sometimes some departments may have some very uncomfortable conversations. But that's something it's something that you have to continue to work on and continue to communicate, because it's not just one set thing. It's continue open and respected dialogue.
So I'm wondering if that could be included as more a prominent part of the mission statement, that FIT believes in the process of having a standard of conduct and civility within each levels of conversation, so that no one person, due to ranking or through even within classroom situation, that is something that we value. And I think we are doing that. We had a great process of saying of the posters that stated that say no. That was it was targeting specific language.
Impactful language, right?
Yeah,
yes.
But also I think there are so many ways in which things have been expressed, and it's not open to dialogue. It's all about more of a power struggle, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wants to say? Thank you. Dr. Brown? I think he's coming back.
Oh, I didn't know if Eli was getting. Were you going to say something, Eli? Okay, just checking. Well, I think that we owe a real round of thanks and gratitude to the committee for taking on such a task and for really giving it the time and the thoughtful connection that it requires. I think to the last question, I think that so much of what we are grappling with here, it's a tough conversation. It's a self-examination. I think the whole notion of civility and inclusion and equity, it all goes back to really your own mindset. No one wants to think that they have biases, but we all do. I mean, you live with it. You've had a set of experiences. You've had cultural kinds of beliefs and practices, just things that mean your set of beliefs may be stronger than you believe someone else's set of beliefs are. And, you know, I think that a big part of what we need to do if we're going to really achieve these goals is to own our own behaviors, own our own thought processes, examine them, and, you know, sort of be willing to analyze and figure out if there aren't moments when you can stop what is your first reaction and think about it. You know, just think about the impact on someone else. If there aren't ways that we can enrich our own set of experiences by the influence of what others believe and how they live and what is important to them. So it's you know, I said earlier that I thought we had a really rich opportunity, that it's an enriching opportunity to have such a diverse student body. It's an enriching opportunity to have a diverse faculty, because we are sending our students out into a world that requires them to know how to interact and deal and be successful in that environment. So I think it's all in front of us, and it's up to us to take advantage of this challenge that the Diversity Council has presented to us. And I'm very, very proud of the work that's come out of this. I think we have a lot of work to do, but it's good work. It's challenging work. It's something to reach for. And I think the questions have been good. I think we're going to incorporate civility in this because it's totally connected. And it just really requires respect. That's really, when you boil it down, it's only about respect, and respect for difference, respect for other people. You know, I used to say, you know, if you need a cat, get a cat, kick the cat, but don't kick the cat, really. I don't really mean that. I think that it doesn't belong here. You wouldn't talk to friends in some of the things you're referring to. You wouldn't say that to friends that you wanted to keep as a friend. And I don't think we can afford to discard relationships in any way. So I'm going to turn it back to Ron to close. I just wanted to say thank you, and I thank you all for being here, and I look forward to what we're going to do to make this real. So thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? I want to say, from representing the Diversity Council, the President's Diversity Council, thank you so much for coming. And if you have any comments, you can still go online until October 21st, and myfit.edu, and it's also, the link will be on the PowerPoint, so you can get access to it. Thank you so very much. All right.